Carol Moulton, once again coming to you with Tea Time with Carol. Hope that you had a pleasant Thanksgiving. Hope that it went well. Maybe you had to scale it back, couldn't travel as you had planned, or have a lot of folks as you normally do. But, that may not be a bad thing either, because do we question why do we do this anyway? You know, a lot of people are not even calling it Thanksgiving Day, but they're calling it Indigenous Peoples Day, or something along those lines, to commemorate the real meaning of Thanksgiving, which was the day that the Native Americans stopped the Puritans and the early settlers from starving, by sharing, what they had with them. But in any event, welcome to America. So I've got just a couple of things that I want to share with you today. In one sense, it feels like this year is lasting like forever. And in another sense, it feels like it's really quickly, because I can't believe that we're knocking at the door of December. And once you enter December, it's over. It's a done deal. And I will spare you my thought for now about Christmas and gift giving and all that. I will spare you my thoughts. What I will say on that note is, I think this is a good time, given everything that we've been through. I think this is a good time to question everything. Um, there was a course that I took in the seminary called Apologetics. And that course is designed to have you question everything you think you know and everything you think you believe about your faith. And not to disparage, or not to make you question, or maybe it does for some people, but make you really, the word talks about making your election sure, and well, that's kind of ironic given these days, but I'm talking about election. But in any event, I'm talking in the faith sense, um, and it's about, apologetics. It's about really determining what you say you believe and what that's based on. And so I'm saying all that to say this is a good time to really look at everything. I came across a really good book on that note called One Nation Under God: How Corporate America Invented Christian America. And so, starting in the 30s, it's a wonderful book. It's on Amazon. I got the hard copy. Sometimes I like to hold the book when I'm reading it. But it's a detailed history of Christianity, starting with like the 1930s, going forward. And it's really interesting how corporate America has crafted the religion that we are so accepting of right now. And I'm not talking about the word, I'm not talking about scripture. I'm talking about a lot of the things, the accoutrements of the faith that we sort of take for granted, that we take as gospel, if you will. Um, the and you're seeing it with evangelicals. That has become such a hot topic. With them getting so involved. I'm sure you all, well, you may have seen a number of the evangelicals who were praying for a certain result with this last election. And I don't ever remember pastors and preachers getting that involved. I mean, I remember sometimes they may have certain candidates to come on a particular day and kind of speak, but I don't ever remember, with this kind of passion and this kind of destructive rhetoric, because it's not just vote for this guy because he's the best guy. It's more of a, destructive, annihilate, kill, cut the head off, of the opponent. And I'm like, where does that even come from? Well, if you read this book, you get a much better idea of what's really going on with that. And I think that that's a good thing that this has happened because it's causing some of us to really take a step back from organized religion, to take a step back and say, well, is this really what Christ is about? I mean, they want to criticize certain people for certain things, but Jesus was a rebel. I mean, he went against the grain of the authorities. He did not toe the party line and yeah, it's all good. No, 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 no. No. If you recall, he got very angry and threw some folks out of the temple, the money changers, because he knew they were really ripping people off. But in any event, I digress. What I wanted to talk to you for just a few moments today is about hope. Hope. And I'm going to begin with a little quote from Emily Dickinson, very interesting poet. She lived, 100 years ago or so, and she wrote a lot of poetry, never married, was sort of isolated. There was a movie that came out about her recently, about her early life, that was very good. That was very, very good. And it really showed her as a real person. Well, anyway, hope. What she said, what she wrote is, hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without words and never stops at all. I think that's just so beautiful. So, okay, so where does that leave us? Okay, well, I know it's real difficult for a lot of people right now to have anything that looks like hope because, it looks like the world has just gone mad. There are 13 million people who've been diagnosed with this crazy disease. And I don't know what the number is today for the number of deaths. I don't even, I'm not even trying to know. I know that it's going up every day, and they're predicting that before it's over it may hit 400,000. So I'm praying for all of you and all of your families to remain safe during this time. Don't take chances, and don't ignore what they're telling us to do. But hope, 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 hope. So what do we do? I've thought about this from a number of different angles, and one thing that I am convinced of is that for Black folks, it's time for us to move in a different kind of way politically. And I'm not talking about a party line, or you, whichever you choose is fine. But I think we do have to be more active than we have been. And I did notice at the last election that there were a lot of folks posting, and I don't recall seeing this kind of number before. A lot of folks were posting that they were poll watchers or election officials. They served in the polling places. Personally, I made phone calls on a number of days, to potential voters in swing states. So I think a lot of us did our part, but that's just the beginning. I think that it's necessary for us as a people to become even more active on the local level, because what I see happening is that, oh, so you have to understand the code. And when they keep talking about we only want the legal votes to be counted and we don't want the illegal votes, that's really a code for minority votes. We don't want the Black folks because they know which way we tend to vote. And, they, when I say they, I mean, you know who I'm talking about. They're those who are trying to eliminate votes. Funny little aside here, the Republican committee campaign, whatever they're called, paid $3 million to do a recount in, I think it was Milwaukee. And it ended up, after they spent the $3 million for the recount, with like 152 additional votes for Biden. So just note that the whole discussion about fraud and illegal votes and all of that is a trick of the enemy, and that's a smokescreen for what's really going on. What's really going on is it's an assault on democracy. And I know it's difficult for Black folks because we feel like we've been so disenfranchised and so cut out of the process that it doesn't matter. Well, I'm here to tell you that it does matter. Because if we don't really start participating and getting involved, then it's going to be really dang on easy for them to turn back the clock, which is what they're really trying to do, and make it impossible for us to vote. I mean, all these things about slowing down the mails, removing the polling places, and making one per county, all these things that were done to make it more difficult for people to vote. I am so proud that Americans stood up, and a lot of Black folks stood up, and a lot of Black women stood up and said, my voice will be heard. But now, what I'm suggesting to you is that we can't stop. We have to continue the assault because they're not stopping. They're not stopping. I don't think there's been a concession yet. And they're still filing, I think they're up to 38 lawsuits challenging. And what I see, this is the worst lawyering I've ever seen in my life. And the only way that I have been able to maintain my sanity, and this is not a joke really, is I've gotten on Twitter, which I was never on before, and I started following a lot of very highly respected attorneys. And I started, reviewing the filings. Some of these folks, I don't know how they have a law license. I'm telling you the truth. The stuff that I'm seeing, the misspelled words, if you can't spell district, how in God's name do you have a license to practice law? But anyway, I digress. And that's a true story. I'm not kidding. Um, but I follow a number of these attorneys and law professors, and then that kind of calms me down because I read an account of the latest whatever that's going on, and I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. But I know what they're trying to do. What they're trying to do is trying to get to the Supreme Court, and they think that they can make all these new fresh wonderful arguments there. And one, it doesn't really work that way, and two, I'm hoping that you know all the states get certified and get the electoral college done, that whole process finished before, so we can just stop playing around. January 20th can't come fast enough for me. But anyway, anyway, we're on hope. We are on hope. Um, Another thing I want to suggest, if you haven't read it already, the Pope Francis came out today or yesterday with, I guess it's like an opinion letter. And what he talked about was empathy and the need for empathy. And I think that applies. I think that's very applicable to us. You tell who he was talking to. But I think that for us, we're going to have some empathy too, because you know there's so many people who are sick. There's so many people who are um, food insecure. They're just not secure about where their next meal is coming from or where they're going to be able to live, because the temporary holds on evictions in some counties has been lifted. Excuse me. So there's going to be it's going to be more difficult. As it gets colder, as the winter months come in, it's going to get more and more difficult. But we continue to have hope, and I want you to have hope. And I want you to think about it in this way. Um, My grandfather was a very, very proud man. He was born in 1901, and he was a Pullman porter on the train. And at that time, that was a very prestigious job because, um, for a black man to have that kind of salary job. And it was a union job. It was one of the first unions, first gather group of black men who were able to unionize under A. Philip Randolph, if you recall your history, talking about A. Philip Randolph. And there is a picture that I found of my grandfather with that first set of union workers of who were it was called the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters, and they were the ones, many people on long trips would travel by sleeping car, and the porters were the ones who took care of folks, on these long trips. Um, my grandparents were married over 50 some years, and he always referred to my grandmother as his girlfriend, which I think probably contributed to the longevity and the good relationship that they had. But anyway, my grandfather, he went to the March on Washington. He followed politics very, very closely. He was very proud of his ability to vote. I always remember him saying, you're looking for the person who's going to do something for black folks. And that was his mentality. And I'm certainly not being critical, and that was certainly appropriate at that time. But what I'm suggesting to you is that a lot of us still have that mentality. We're still looking for someone to do something for us. And I'm referring to the recent um, Johnny come lately discussions by some of the rappers who had these platinum plans and all this kind of foolishness at the last daggone minute. And it reminded me so much of my grandfather's position of waiting for the white man to do something for us, or evaluating candidates in those terms. And I think it's time out for that. I think we really have to find a way to come together in a different kind of way, in a more positive way, and in a way where we are self-determining, what we want. And hopefully with the new administration, there will be ways. I'm very gratified by the names that I'm seeing to be appointed to the first cabinet. And I see that there's a number of diverse candidates. So I'm hoping that they will be approved by the Senate and in place very, very quickly, because there are so many things that need to be done and undone. Yeah, and oh my goodness, I've been talking for so long and I forgot to pour the tea. Oh my God, how did I forget? Oh my Lord. I am so sorry. So let me pause for 1 second. And I don't even know if I welcomed you in. I don't even know. This is kind of where I am right now, just kind of spacey. And you may be feeling the same way, like I really don't know if I'm coming or going. There's some days that are a struggle. I'm not going to lie to you. There's some days that are a struggle, and then there's some days that are okay, but it's difficult. I just want to acknowledge you. Um, and if you need a glass of wine every day, or whatever it is that you need to do to make it through, but don't discount the power of prayer. Don't forget that. And if you're struggling with um the religion, you and I'm not talking about faith, I'm talking about religion and organized religion. If that's not getting it for you right now, then I suggest, in all sincerity and in all love, that you find your way to your knees and really ask God to show you him. Ask him to show you who he is, ask for a real relationship with Him, one that's not dependent on other people. You know, if you feel like the only time you can shout is when the choir is singing real good, that's a problem. If you feel like the only time you feel God is when you're inside the church, that's a problem, you know. So find a little quiet space in your home, wherever that may be, and find some time to talk to Him, and pour out to Him, and tell Him about your struggles, and how this craziness is impacting you, and how you don't like it, and whatever's in your heart, whatever's in your heart, that you can't date, that you can't, you thought you were going to be able to find a mate now, and now you can't even go to a bar or see anybody, so just spend some time with Him, spend time in the Word, and not doing it because you think it's required or expected of you, but read it as a love letter, to you, written to you personally, to you. And, really focus on the Psalms and Proverbs. Those are good wisdom. It's good wisdom, for every day, and may help you kind of get through this a little bit better. So, I've kind of gotten in the habit of reading from this devotional for you as we come to a close for today. Um, and I like this because it mentions hope in here also, which is where we opened, and I did not plan that. So that is how God works. But for today, this is from the I Hear His Whisper, Encounter God's Heart for You devotional. The reading for today is Remember My Promises. That sounds very appropriate. Remember my promises, His promises. Remember God's promises. So this is God speaking to you. Remember the promises that I have spoken to you. Do not let them go. I promised you life, strength, healing, and power. My words will be the armor to empower you when doubts assail you from every side. Keep coming to me, and never forget the destiny I have promised you, for your inheritance is received by faith. Take my word and let it become your foundation. Stand upon it. Wrap it around your thoughts and let it rise from your lips. It will increase your faith. Even the promises I have made to you personally are to be trusted. Don't look to the right or the left, but keep your heart fixed on me. Judge every prophetic word that comes to you by the witness of my Holy Spirit inside of you. Let your hope be stirred by the words that I give to you. Don't be afraid to believe me fully and to invest yourself in my promises. Every word I speak is alive and brings light to every dark chasm. And the word from Psalm 18, verse 30 says, What a God you are! Your path for me has been perfect. All your promises have proven true. What a secure shelter for all those who turn to hide themselves in you. You are the wraparound God giving grace to me. So, my beloved, we're going to end there um, with, I hope those words encourage you, and I hope that they are a little bit of light for your path. Um, you know, life is not happening to you, life is happening for you. So, underneath of it all, just know that God is working things out. All the things that are happening, they're happening for our ultimate good. And you've got to hold on to that and believe it and trust it, even though it doesn't always look so cool. You've got to trust that God knows what He's doing. And I truly believe He is up to something right now. because there is a shaking that is including the entire world. And we have an opportunity now. This is the opportunity for us to get it right, to stop idolizing people, to stop doing the crazy things, idolizing our children, making sin okay. Sometimes we take an idea and we idolize it. We turn it into an ideology, and it can be abortion, it can be prayer in schools, it can be, anything. And anything taken to an extreme is not good. So I'm not going to get started again. I'm going to stop there. We will pick this back up hopefully next week, if the Lord is gracious and lets us do this again on next week. And I'll be talking a little bit more about coming to ourselves and really making some changes in 2021. And I think that's going to be an awesome year for all of us. So I pray God's blessing on each and every one of you. I love you. I love you, love you, love you. I want only the best for you. And I pray for you and your family daily. So be blessed. And we will talk to you again real soon. This is Carol Moulton from Tea Time with Carol. Until next time, remember, everything you want is on the other side of fear. Take care. Love ya. Bye bye.